So should we just get right to it then? I just created the agenda. I haven't really, oh, there's another guy joining now, Dave Jeffrey. So there are at least 3 new people here. That's nice. I just wrote down a few points that we can go through. I'm very open for other things to discuss. If anyone has anything, you can either write it in the chat or in the Notion document that I'm showing on the screen. I think we have a link to that, haven't we, Alexander? Let's see. I'll just post it in the. I posted it in the chat on Discord now. So I think it's actually a few weeks since the last meeting, 2 weeks or so. There have been a lot of changes in the code base since that. I think the last time we actually talked about the changelog was on alpha 166, I think, or 167. Now we're at 172, and there have been quite a few cool changes since that. I haven't prepared any demonstrations, but we should probably link to some of the videos that Nathan has done, because he has made a really cool demo on transitions, like the transition API that we've added. I think it's still not frozen. Like there will probably be some changes to how the easing works and how you override durations and things like that. But all in all, I think the basics are pretty good. It's really easy to add small transitions and yeah, nice little effects for elements when they are added and removed from the DOM. We could open a Scrimba and throw together a demo as well. Let me see if I can just change the thing I'm sharing. Let me see. Because one thing that I have added in the latest alpha, I think that I guess very few people have tested, is support for CSS inside of conditionals. Have you tried it out, Nathan? Or did you even know that it was?
No, I haven't tried that. I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah, so I can change the. Let me see. I'll share share a different window. Can you see the Chrome window that I shared now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, my headset says that it has no battery left, so maybe I need to switch over to the speaker and the other microphone soon. So as you all know, we can do CSS inside of tag blocks, like tag declarations. This CSS will apply to the self, and any nested CSS rule you have inside of here will apply to any literal tag element inside of the tag declaration. You can also have these inside of the self. So CSS div color white. Now you see that the color actually turned white. Did you see that now? That's the live preview. Yeah. Yeah, obviously, since you're watching the video. So there's really not that big of a difference between this and this. The only thing is that you can also do interpolations here. So you can do stuff like X and then a number. So num equals 10. Try this. Now they're offset by X. If I add a slider here, input type range min 0 max 100 bind num. So now you see that this is a very ugly example, but I guess you see the you see the point. So that works in inline style as well. So I can do rotate num here, step 0.1. So now we can see that it's probably better to do it with degrees, I guess. So this way you can actually interpolate values in inline styles. And the reason you can't do that inside of these CSS declarations is that it becomes very difficult to say when the interpolated values will be evaluated. because the whole point here is that this happens essentially inside of a render method. So having a lone self on the top level of a tag declaration block is the same as having a render method with this inside. And then it makes a lot of sense, like it goes through all of these steps, and this is the point where it actually interpolates and sets that CSS value. But now you can also have CSS blocks inside of conditionals. So if I do if num above 5, then CSS div scale, let me see, scale is num times 1 plus times 0.1. Okay, this is some weird example, but I hope it's gonna work. So once the number is more than 5, you see that happens right now, then this style will kick in, like these styles. So I wouldn't go crazy with it, but it's essentially a smart way to. So in many of my applications, I end up doing things like this, like collapsed some condition. So I set a conditional flag on the self equal to some condition, only to be able to inside of here do CSS and collapsed and then some CSS styles inside of that. So this is essentially a somewhat cleaner shorthand to be able to just do if some condition, and then inside of the here have these styles that you will otherwise do with the flag. So in some cases, it obviously is better to actually use the class, and that's when you do want to have generic external and global styles that are going to kick in, or if you want to actually get the element by doing a query selector for that specific class name or something. But in many cases, again, it is even better to do it inside of these nested like conditionals, because then you move the styling even closer to the actual code, like right in there with the components. So yeah, it's a new feature. It's been tested quite a lot. It's not as optimized as the case that you see here, where you have where I actually set a class name and then style it based on that class name. So I wouldn't worry. It probably doesn't have anything to say in real world cases, but I know of a few optimizations that are still to be done that are not there right now. Yeah.
Will it work with like a trailing conditional? If you were to put
no, if you want to be like this.
Yeah.
No. So I have considered the trailing conditionals are really challenging from a
to like parse it.
Yeah, from the standpoint of the parser and the lecture and all of that. So it's really a bunch of pretty ugly hacks just to make postfix conditionals work well now. I have considered allowing conditions inside of the blocks like this, so that you actually can do the block blah 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 and then do it inside of the CSS as well. That's not a very big difference from doing it outside, in my opinion. So I'm not sure it's really worth the hassle. But I am considering allowing like if some condition then CSS block or some condition and CSS block. Again, I'm not sure if it's much better, but I do like the fact that I don't like it when you have way too many levels of nesting.
Yeah.
On another note, like related to this topic, I also fixed a lot of stuff with ternary and compact conditionals in tag trees. So if you have this, let's say active no now, if active, I'm just going to show these elements when the let me see. So when I click this, yeah, this becomes very messy, but only when it's active, these three elements are to be shown. I have now also fixed the conditional thing, like where you can actually use a ternary here, I think. Yeah. And also you could do it if what you want is just if active and then a single thing. It's the same as doing active and. So that now works reliably in the code,
Nice.
which is a relatively nice. Obviously, you shouldn't use that all the time, but there are cases where it
does that work with like the null coalescing operator, the question mark?
Like this, no, I don't think it does, but that it should definitely. So that's just it's not a bug, it's just something I didn't think of.
Right. Yeah, just not that I want to particularly use it, just thinking of things like possible edge cases, I guess.
Yeah. Can you hear me now since my headphones switched off?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Cool. Oops, there was someone in the waiting room that I didn't. Yeah.
Cool. Those are nice improvements.
Yeah. So these are two of the main, like three of the main improvements. It's the transitions. I could show that as well, I guess. I could show it really quickly. So if I do if active, this one here, it's going to show now when I click this. If I add an ease property, I can then do, let's say, O at off. That just says that the opacity will be 0 when the element is off, or when it's just not supposed to be inside of the DOM. And by adding this ease property, we set some defaults. So if this works as expected, this should fade in 300 milliseconds. So now it faded in num0. So now it actually instantly added itself, right? What we could do is if we set the height to be, let's say, 40 pixels or 60 pixels. I think there are some issues there with flex pixels. Let's say M0, 0. And we do flex instead. So let's say.
Go ahead.
Now
do you want to add height at off for the
yeah,
for the animation?
I am going to do that, but I was just wondering why the other ones are not styled with some height as well. Flex. It's these all take up space, so I'm just going to do div bflex here. I'm going to do like this. I think center, no. Yeah, we can look into why it's probably something I just don't. I know what it is now. So FLB 100. So it's not really about setting the height, I think. So when you use flex, I probably should just use a block instead, obviously. When you use flex on the container, the height doesn't really matter. It uses the flex basis. At least if you set flex to 0.
If you set min height, it prevents the collapsing. I don't know if that's what you're running into though.
Yeah. I could do that as well, min height, I think. But the whole point is, yeah, now I remove the, since I changed it to block. But yeah, so now it actually fades out, but it instantly moves in, right? So I could also do height, margin bottom at off minus 60. If I knew the height was actually 60. So in this case, it will actually fade in like this.
That's smart. Doing it with the margin.
Yeah, not that this is a very pretty example, but it's still an example of how powerful the transitions really are and how much you can do with very little code. And again, this part of the transitions API is not meant to do these complex animations. It's just meant to be able to polish and add like tiny effects for your elements that appear and disappear. So yeah,
it's super cool. I keep finding situations to use it.
Yeah,
and I go, oh, this would be nice if it animated, and you just add a couple lines and it's done.
Yeah. And another thing here is that Scrimba.com is finally supporting the latest versions of the Imba Alpha. That means that we don't need to actually publish a new release of Scrimba whenever we release a new alpha of Imba. So in the future, when you go to imba.new, you create a new scrim in Scrimba with the latest version of Imba, and you can always just upgrade the dependency to later alphas or install like the specific Imba version you want, and the compiler and the runtime will respect that, including the tooling. So the tooling is not really good at Scrimba right now. I am working to make the new like TypeScript tooling stuff work here, but it takes a lot longer than I expected. But yeah, so it will be much easier for me now to create new scrims that actually goes through the changelog when there are changes. I'm very much looking forward to that. And on a side note, I'm also progressing nicely on rewriting the Scrimba core to Imba 2. And I hope that will be done in a week or two, likely 2 weeks. And that will also be a huge improvement for Scrimba itself. It will allow us to release new updates to the editor and tech much more rapidly. So, and after that, it will be easier for me to get back to Imba related stuff again, because right now I'm very much focused on the Scrimba rewrite.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. So how did like the Imba upgrade affect Scrimba? So what's better, like I mean, the second version is way better, but how does that affect real code? So,
what do you mean? Like, how does it affect?
Yeah, how like Imba is not very different from version 2 to version 1. So, but how does like migrating to Imba 2 affected Scrimba?
So the main difference is that we are actually like in the process of migrating and updating it for Imba 2. We have been able to fix a bunch of like small features and made it much easier to develop new features. Just one tiny example, in the new version, when you add files and directories, it will actually be recorded when you will see the name you're typing. It's not like an ugly alert that takes over the whole screen. It feels much more like a regular editor. And we also added things like it will actually record much more nicely effects when the mouse cursor is over all different buttons and elements, tiny things like that. But really, like, even if the difference isn't that large from Imba 1 to Imba 2, there are big parts, especially everything related to views, that have had to be not completely rewritten, but yeah, I would say the view parts are mostly rewritten. And that's because the support for gestures, like for complex event handlers with pointers and stuff in Imba 2, and the resize, like the resize event, that is essentially just the resize observer with a bunch of event logic added to it. These events clean up a lot of the old code. Like, there was so much code just for browser resizing and registering when editor and the browser and everything changes sizes previously. So all of that has been cleaned up a lot. And it also means that things are going faster. It's not that Scrimba is slow now, but for at least for slightly older computers, it will be much faster during playback and during editing. And the main reason there is that we are now heavily using resize observers for all the elements that we need to actually observe, instead of doing these hacky listening to the resize of the full viewport, and on every render actually checking if offset height and stuff are changed on a bunch of elements. So we can stop rendering on every frame and instead just render whenever the actions or the timeline changes, or things like that. So
yeah.
so the main benefit will be that it will be much easier for us to push new updates. And
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So Abdallah, would you like to? I saw the really cool Playwright thing that you sent a pull request for and actually showed the demo for. Would you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do you want me to like take over the screen and just
Cool. If you can do that, then definitely.
Yeah.
I'll stop sharing now. So
I hope this still works. CD Imba Playwright. Yeah. Let me share my screen. Oh, you need to give me the permission to actually share the screen.
Let me see. Yeah, sorry. Now
Okay, cool.
It should be on.
Okay. Now, so here's my screen. I'm on the Playwright. I created a fork just to add the Imba recorder.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see it in action actually. So I'm gonna run it. Taking its time. Yeah. So okay, so this is a browser that's controlled by Playwright, and you can just type in the site that you want. Usually, it's going to be localhost because you're going to be, developing actual features. You want to test stuff, so you can play around and click on stuff. Maybe is there an input somewhere? Maybe here. Okay, probably something to play around here. Yeah. Okay, I don't know if this is gonna work and generate the code, but
that would be extremely impressive if that worked.
So what is Playwright for us that have no idea what it means?
Yeah, so Playwright is like Puppeteer. So if you've heard of Puppeteer.
Yeah, Puppeteer.
Yeah, Playwright is Microsoft's competitor. They actually hired one of the core Puppeteer members, and they have a great team, and they're making progress in this Playwright. It's like Puppeteer, but it's more for testing. It's focused on testing, and it offers a complete solution for testing. This is one of the solutions they offer. They have a testing library, so you don't have to use Jest or anything. So they have everything backed in. And so this is what you see here, Playwright tests. You have expect assertions and all this stuff. They have this code chain that you can play around, super useful. And they have a lot more things, like traces. Maybe I'm going to show you that. Bunch of amazing tools they have, and it's rock solid. Kind of cool. So so here, I don't know if it actually draw stuff, probably not.
Oh, I think it's probably it's inside of frames, and I think it's very it's very edge casey.
It's very tricky. I just clicked on the canvas. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what you get, and you could actually just copy paste it. It's gonna work if you're inside then code base. Let's see. Gonna open up this real quick. Okay, my computer is CD workspace, Imba. So the PR contains a bunch of other things. It contains the CI, so it runs end-to-end tests in the 3 major operating systems and in 3 major browsers. So if we have a full suite for Imba, it's going to run on 9 browsers. So that's extremely useful. So we don't have something working in Firefox and not working in Chrome. So yes, so this is, let's see, so this is the basic test. So what's good about it is if you record, you just copy paste and then you actually run the code. So here I'm building just to build those test files to JavaScript. It's gonna take a bit of time because I'm recording the screen and my computer is not super fast. But yeah, it's quite fast. There is one more thing I wanted to show you. It's here. No, it's not. Yeah. So it's gonna run the test. So that's super cool. It's gonna come in handy if people actually want to write end-to-end tests in Imba, which is a cool addition. Yep. It's running. And what's good about Playwright, it's very well. Okay, didn't run. Yeah, demo time. And tests.
It did run the complex.
Oh no, yeah, there's
Yeah.
I copied stuff wrong here. Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to show you another thing. So this is the context feature. Yeah. So this is a feature that's not working right now in Imba. It was a regression. I was using it in one of my apps, and yeah, I created a test here. But yeah, here you say you can see like test.skip, so it's skipped. Yeah. And that's very useful so that the CI does not break. So it's going to be in the code base, but the CI is not going to break until like it's actually fixed. And my idea of I'm going to stop sharing my screen about this is that for when someone opens a bug, like he can create a reproduction as an end-to-end test, and start creating a PR, and that contains the failing scenario. That's going to be a very good start for anyone who wants to contribute, because he already have a failing test that he's just going to make a pass.
Yeah, definitely. So we should get this into the. I haven't had time to go thoroughly through the pull request, but it seems like a very good start. So we should integrate it into the Imba repository and start to move more of the testing there. I'm not sure. Have you thought? Is there any way to do like node tests with Playwright, or will that be? Yeah, I guess we can do SSR tests.
Yeah. So a Playwright test is a testing library. You can use it in. You can put regular stuff. It doesn't have to be end-to-end. It doesn't have to open a browser. Okay, but it's just very well integrated with the Puppeteer backend as well for. Yeah, so it's like the same library. So it's the same API that we're gonna use. Yeah. And I saw that you're using Puppeteer in the for testing. Yeah. And yeah, so I saw you wrote a whole library around it. Yeah. Just to make it easy. Yeah. But it's still very limited, and at the same time, it's one of my biggest worries now is that we're not, even though we have quite a few tests, we're only essentially testing in Crow, since Puppeteer is essentially headless Crow. And we're not running any tests in Node. So we're not at all testing the SSR capabilities and how things work with Express as a backend in Node and all of that. And we really need to add that to the test suite as well. Yeah, so if you, let me show you, this is actually working. I'm gonna take the screen again. Yep. Let's go to GitHub. q/imba pool1. So what it actually does, this Playwright thing, so it just spins up a server, an Express server.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's the config. So you can you have an option for web server. Just give it the command test. It runs the app in there.
Yeah.
And you give it the port. It's gonna listen to it, and when it's done, it's gonna like kill it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's super useful. And I'm using
That's very cool.
it's an actual Express server that's running. Here's the code for it. It's just from the basic Imba app. So it's just, you know, this code.
Oh,
If you're familiar with it. So it
Yeah,
runs the
yeah.
Express code, so we can test SSR, we can test anything. This isn't, yeah, you know,
it's
it's
very cool. I'm
entering.
definitely going to get it in there, and then we can start collaborating on how to move forward with the actual tests.
Yeah, we need just a plan to know, to have a big list of like things to test, and
Yeah.
then we could move forward. And let me show you like one cool thing, because yeah, we're here. Yeah, this is, you know, it runs it on Ubuntu, Chromium, Windows, macOS, 2 versions of macOS. So it's like, you know, 12 browsers, Chromium,
Yeah.
Firefox, and WebKit. And it's, you know, super cool. Yeah, very useful.
Cool. So I'm guessing there's really, are there any reason to keep the old tests as well? Like, or does it make sense to move most of it into the?
Yeah, so for me, when I contributed the teleport tag, it was hard for me to add tests. Like, I didn't really understand what was going on. I tried to understand. I didn't actually give it much time, but yeah, I didn't know how to play around, you know, just run my tests. I don't wanted to just, you know, do some basic stuff. I didn't know because it wasn't documented. But if we move to Playwright, it's gonna be, you know, people just go to documentation, everything's documented, and you have this code chain so that it's easier to write tests.
Yeah. It's super cool.
We don't really need to migrate. Like, it's not super urgent. We could maybe do
we could just start adding tests too. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. It's again, one of the most meaningful pull requests or contributions to Imba so far. So that's very good. After the teleport stuff. So
yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Cool. Anyone else have anything on their mind? Any questions or?
Yeah, I had some follow-up questions related to Scrimba, the code base. So I was wondering, like, since I've seen the code base, I'm just curious about the Webpack specific bits and the transition to Esbuild. Did you experience any specific issues with dependencies?
No. So everything now is even the old core, which is still written in Imba 1, is now just being built through the Esbuild bundler, like the Imba native bundler that ships with Imba. And essentially it takes the build time down from 15-20 seconds or something to, I guess it is 300 milliseconds. So now we actually have instant reloading that we didn't before. And there haven't been any issues that I know of related to dependencies. It just works out of the box. So, and now we're, by the way, it's not totally related, but for now that we launched the rewritten core relatively soon, we're also moving away from our custom weird Webpack-like bundler for the actual scrims, and moving to just using ESM modules natively via using JSPM for package management, and then using native ES modules in the browser, and that works so well instead of the hacky solution that we have now. So
you didn't need to do any specific configuration on the Esbuild side, considering there are some dependencies on the Webpack side?
Which kind of dependencies are you talking about?
I mean, like, if you look, like, I haven't seen the Webpack file, the configuration, but from what I remember, there was some custom parts in there. right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
there are no longer any custom parts.
Okay, then I see.
Yeah, because most of the custom parts with that was essentially to be able to set up the different entry points, because we had entry points for the different workers. We had an entry point for the editor. We had an entry point for the site, and all of that is now handled in the code using the import. Since in Imba 2 you can do import, like import.webworker, and then the relative path to the web worker, and that will actually create a sub package on compile time. So yeah, all of the webpack config has actually gone away.
I see.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Anything else?
Yeah. If nobody else has a follow-up question, I wanted to ask, like, regarding the next meeting. Is Tuesday the best day? For me, like, it's a challenge if we have it past like 9 p.m. is a challenge. Like anything before 8 or 8 p.m. is fine.
I think for me, most days are actually fine. I would prefer to have it 8:30, because that will be then I don't have to worry about being able to make it in time. Are there any other days that are better or worse for the rest of you people, or?
For me, it's okay. The earlier it is, like, the better. But yeah, so for 8 p.m.
Sorry?
Cindery's time, it's okay. 8 or 8:30, like it's okay for me.
So maybe we could move it to. Is Wednesday okay for you, Alexander? Or
on Wednesday is very hard. How about Thursday or Friday? Does any of those days work?
I mean, Friday is not a good day. Like, Thursday is better, actually.
Okay, how about Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday is good for me as well. We also have Scrimba board meetings on Tuesdays once every month, so that will collide with. So that's another reason to actually change the date to Thursday. Is Thursday okay for you, Nathan? You think?
Nathan is gone, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, just ask him, and then we can figure out another time if that doesn't work.
Sure.
So cool. Thank you for taking the time, Sindre. So.
You too. It's nice to.
Sorry, may I have a question?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
What about bundle optimization for future? Do you have any plans to optimize it? Because I don't really understand why it's so big for simple Hello World application.
So to be honest, we can definitely shrink it a little. The whole thing is that once you add a single custom element, it actually includes the runtime, or not the runtime, but the library code for custom components, and that includes hooks for like mounting and unmounting and all sorts of stuff like that. It is very, especially with gzip, it is actually very it doesn't get very big, in my opinion, and the whole thing is that it's only the fact that you actually include that initial part that grows the bundle, and after that it doesn't grow much larger. So unless you are going to use it for these extremely small Hello World things, I don't really think it matters a lot. It's the same with Svelte versus Vue. I've read that, in fact, like, even if Svelte can flag that the initial Hello World example is extremely small, once you use just a decent amount of the features in Svelte, like event listeners or tracking some variables, or maybe a transition or two, then you end up including most of the library anyways. So in an application like a Vue application, even if the Hello World example is bigger than in Svelte, it only takes like adding a few more views and a few more files, then that size difference is actually eliminated. I'm not saying that we can't do more to shrink it, but it's not a huge focus right now, because all in all, I think it's sub 10 kilobytes gzipped, which shouldn't be much of a worry today. So yeah, it's not a big focus. It can be improved. but yeah,
Okay, thanks.
no problem. Cool. So
yeah, one question before we. So
Yeah.
when do you think that the version 2, the production release of version 2 is gonna land?
I think that mostly right now, I think it mostly comes down to documentation, to be honest. Maybe some more tests, but I have talked to Frode about trying to arrange like a documentation hackathon for a week or something, where all of us at Scrimba chips in as well and have that as our main priority, with daily meetings about what to improve and then assigning tasks to each other, like actively improving and writing documentation for a week. I think that would be a nice thing to get in before the 2.0 final. But other than that, I'm not too worried. Like, I don't think we should expect the 2.0 to be a perfect release anyways. Like, I'm sure there were bugs and missing features in Vue 3.0 and Svelte 2.0 or 3.0 or wherever they are now. So yeah, it should be relatively soon. I've said that for more than a year, so I wouldn't trust me. But yeah.
Yeah.
It mostly comes down to documentation.
Maybe during this Christmas.
Yes.
This Christmas.
True. Cool. So we'll see.
So there is a question about web components support.
Okay.
I can say like it's supported.
Yeah, they should. So again, this probably comes down to testing and some missing features, because Imba is actually compiling the tags to native web components. But I'm sure if you use them just as regular web components, then there are some like hooks that aren't called correctly and some things that doesn't play nice with shipping standalone web components. I'm guessing that's probably your question. Like, web components do work, but there's currently no way to compile an Imba project to a standalone single file that is a web component or anything like that.
I see.
Yeah, currently it's still optimized. To be honest, I think Imba is still optimized for the use case of using it, like embracing it completely for a project, at least on the front end.
Okay.
But we should definitely improve that. But since it's not my use case at all to try to shoehorn it into an existing project, then I haven't had time to really focus on that use case. But now that more people are starting to use it and more people are actually starting to get into the code base of the Imba itself, like Abdallah, then I think it will be possible in the future to focus more on that aspect of the language.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the answer.
Cool. Yeah. Anyone else? Cool. So we'll talk next Thursday then.
Yeah, have a great week.
Alexander can take care of tweeting out beforehand and pinging me for an agenda and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down now. I'll remember it.
Cool. So are we saying then 8:30? Is that fine for you?
Yeah, and we can talk about it later too. If something comes up, we can just pick another day if it doesn't work out.
It is very beneficial to keep them consistently on the same time on the same day.
Absolutely.
So I've been too sloppy in the recently, especially since you couldn't join. It's been too easy for me to just postpone it and stuff. But I think when we have it regularly and at the same time, that will be the point when people recurrent start coming again and again, and we get more participants. So
yeah, sounds good. And we should tweet it maybe even a couple of times before. I keep forgetting it every time. So yeah, cool. Thanks. Okay, bye.
Thanks all. Talk to you later.
Bye everyone.